Mhm. It's that simple. No, you don't have to. No, because of Terry being the guest tonight, you don't have to give away. No, you don't have to do that. All right. Just tell him to be patient. We'll be with him in a minute. I'm going to run a video before that. Yeah. Going to run a video before that, and then we'll have him come on and we'll talk about the bike. The Robert bike. Yeah, it's going to be really good. Okay. You don't have to do anything other than that. Although dinner is important, but you've never let me down. I got to go. I got to start the show. Okay. Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I am your host, Joe Abadi. Happy New Year to you. It's the first show of the year. And today is, of course, January 7th. I didn't do a show on Christmas Eve for obvious reasons. And, of course, New Year's Eve because many of you are out and about celebrating the new year. And, yeah, I was doing the same thing and celebrating a birthday the next day as well. Thank you all for the messages. In the meantime, I do want to thank everybody who is a sponsor of the show and those who have supported the show for many years now, okay? And just some of the sponsors: Motion Pro, the International Motocross Museum, Full Circle Racing, ARMA. There'll be a new ARMA season coming up here before we know it. So don't forget to keep sharing the show. Whether you're watching on Facebook or you're on YouTube, share the show. And if you want to be a sponsor for just $249.95 a month, you can be a sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A. You'll be on the show every week. I'll have your name on the board like that. We do some standalone commercials for you as well and include you always in our live shows. And, of course, if I'm an MC for an event, we always bring up your name at those things as well. So that's just $249. And if you wanted to be a show supporter, $49.95, one-time fee. What does that get you? Get you a nice apron like this, T-shirt of your choice, either with the cartoon or the Vintage Motocross Q&A logo, and an Eraser X poster for just a one-time fee of $50. So $249 a month or $50 one time, get you some cool swag from Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Whether you're on Facebook or you are on YouTube, please share the show and get some of your friends to come over here and join us tonight. We are going to have Terry Good out here in just a minute. We're going to be talking about the Joel Robert RH72. But in the meantime, there's a couple of things I don't want to miss, and I want to get them at the top of the show. Number one, the York Swap Meet is this weekend. That happens on Sunday, January 11th from 8 to 3. Vendor space is sold out. It has been sold out for a while. I told you guys to get to the party early. Most of you did, and you got yourself a space. I will be there. I'm looking forward to it. Tommy Croft is the guest speaker the night before at the Potomac Vintage Riders Banquet. A lot of great prizes, a buffet. Tommy's going to be telling stories, taking your questions. It's something that you're not going to want to miss. But on Sunday, the York Swap Meet, it all starts at 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. and goes on until 3 in the afternoon. Okay? I think I got all that done right now. Now, many of you come here to Vintage Motocross Q&A, not only for the interviews and Terry's really great stuff that he's been doing with us, but also for the technical videos as well, and some of the historic stuff. But tonight, we have something from Roy Vanderveer, big contributor to the show, and this is about nickel plating or nickel-selling cylinders, okay? So I do want to bring this up for the people that tune in for the technical side of the Vintage Motocross Q&A show. And then Terry standing by, we'll have him come in. But right now, let's jump right on it with Roy and see what he's got for us this week.
So while I'm enjoying this freshly plated cylinder from the good folks at Power Seal, I thought it'd be a great time to address a question that was asked on the live show, but it was never really answered at all. And the question was, why plate a steel lined cylinder? So I'll bring this guy into frame. If this was never plated, why would I want to plate it? And after that question was asked, it was pretty much dismissed as, well, I don't know. Well, I actually do know, and I have done it. And I know other people that have done it. And there's a great reason for some people why they might want to plate this cylinder. There's a lot of variables to consider. Budget, of course, is one of them. But sometimes this can be a better budget proposition than putting a sleeve in it. It depends on a lot of variables. But let's talk about why you might want this in here. First and foremost, Nicosil is 10 times harder than steel. So it will wear vastly better than the iron liner. It has better lubricating properties and offers a very low coefficient of friction, so that gives you better performance. This is something that can save a worn out cylinder that has been worn beyond the available overbore sizes. So if you're at 80 thousandths over, or wherever it stops for your application, you can plate it at 80 thousandths, and then forever moving forward, it's going to be an 80 over cylinder. So the Rockwell hardness of Nicosil is around 90 to 95. That effectively makes it one of the hardest substances on the planet. The only thing harder than this, I believe, is diamond. Then if we look at a steel liner, and this is a little bit less absolute, because there's a wide range of different steels and different thicknesses that can be used. So again, I like absolutes, so I look it up and I'm trying to find out what is the Rockwell hardness of this liner, and it varies depending on which steel it is and how thick the steel is. But I saw numbers ranging from the low 20s to the mid 60s for Rockwell hardness. So that just gives you an idea of how much harder Nicosil is rather than steel. I have a true life adventure. I have Nicosiled air-cooled YZ250 cylinders, and they wore like iron. I mean, maybe that's a bad reference, but they were so durable. The piston stayed in specification way longer than it did with the iron liner, and since the bore wasn't wearing, a lot of times the majority of the wear is actually on the bore, not so much the piston. So it depends on a lot of variables. Of course, Nicosilling a steel liner is more expensive than Nicosilling a plated cylinder. There's a lot more steps involved. And I'll also share a third-party experience, and this is through Mark Hoyer and Kevin Cameron with Michael Podcast. If you're looking for information, these guys are distributing insight that will carry forward for as long as there are internal combustion engines. The stuff that Kevin Cameron has been around to experience, it's just fantastic. And I'm so grateful to them because they're getting it down, they're recording it, their experiences. So the experience here was with Mark Hoyer, and he has a 1956 Velocet. And the problem was he was consuming a lot of oil, and the oil was getting contaminated really, really fast. And with that bike, there's a whole lot of maintenance tasks that we don't even know anything about. You know, we're talking about a 1956 British motorcycle. They were not renowned for being reliable or durable. And for them to have to do a valve job every 1,500 miles, was just business as usual. So Mark had this problem with his Velocette that he really wanted to stop contaminating the oil so quickly and stop burning oil. He had brand new pistons, brand new rings, brand new bore. There's no reason for it to burn so much oil. So he went the route and he had his Velocette cylinder nickel plated and sorry, not nickel plated, but nickel-sealed. And right away, the oil stays clean for thousands and thousands of miles. That's because there's no piston blow by. Nothing's blowing by the rings. Their nickel makes a better seal than steel. And his other complaint, which there was oil consumption, he went to burning no measurable amount of oil, and the oil stayed clean, and that's all he needed to be happy. So for him, putting nickel on his iron liner was a great decision. For me, putting nickel on my iron liners was a great decision because it made the top ends last 2, 3, 4 long. It's kind of hard to quantify exactly, but I take the top end off and measure the piston. Be a little wear on the piston, no wear on the bore, none, 0. That cylinder is still in service. I could start it, ride it tomorrow, and so that's nice. But you're investing in that. You want to know, because you're going to spend some money. You want to know that you're really ready for that, and that the benefit is going to be worth it. So this is where consulting with a good engine builder or doing a lot of research, you can weigh the pros and cons as to whether or not nickel-sealing your iron liner is the best choice for you. So I hope that clears up why people might consider putting nickel on their iron liner.
Roy Vanderveer, thank you so much for joining us with that great information. How come I'm not seeing myself on the screen? Oh, there I am. Roy Vanderveer. Thank you. That was a really great tip on why you can nickel or should nickel some of your steel liners, and just really, really great information. And thank you so much for bringing us some really, really good information in the new year. Terry Good is standing by. Let's get him in here. Terry Good, thank you for joining us tonight on Vintage Motocross Q&A.
My pleasure, Joe.
And of all the bikes you have, one that always gets the attention is the Joe bike, 1972. And I wonder, I spent 50.
Well, that's that ad right there was the first glimpse, basically, that the Americans, in '72, there was a massive parabolic explosion in off-road bikes, motocross, enduros, trail riding. I have read that they sold over 1 million units globally, all the manufacturers that year. And so anyway, Suzuki had gotten into the game the year before with the production bike, but they actually started their R&D program and works effort in 1965, and all that was done, headed up by one of their road race engineers. His name, he's a good friend of mine, actually. His name is Hirohide Tamaki. Okay. And Hirohide designed those early bikes, and they were the ones with the twin pipes, and they got the TM 250 that everyone calls a works bike. Yeah, that's a production bike. And so anyway, that all led to that was in transition to really come up with a viable dirt bike for this huge demand that was created all over the world and primarily in the United States. And I was part of it. I was a young kid, 15 years old in 72. And when this ad of this TM 250 came out,
Right.
that was our first glimpse of Suzuki's best effort. And they cleverly showed the bike next to it there. That's Joel Robert's 1970 World Championship 250. And that bike was flown to the United States. He actually did the Trans Am and Inter-Am. Trans Am is what it was called, but it was an 8-race series. 4 of the races were 250s and 4 were open class 500s.
Okay.
And so they flew this bike and then the 360 that I ended up getting over here for Joel to compete on.
Mm-hmm.
So Suzuki really leveraged their first world championship with Joel winning that with that particular bike. And then the Trans Am series, I think he came here a little bit late in it, but he just dominated. It won everything with that too, basically.
Now, was Roger on the open bike at that time too?
No, he was still a CZ rider.
Still a CZ.
Yeah, he rode the 250 Grand Prix in 1970 on a CZ.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this picture, and we're all old enough to remember, and if you're a younger guy who's into vintage stuff, that number 15,000 might not seem like a whole lot of money to you today. But Terry, 1972, 15 grand, buy a nice house.
You could buy a house for that much back then. And
Yeah.
and actually that number was just a clever ad gimmick. The cost of it was actually many times that. And so anyway, that bike came over here and Suzuki really capitalized a real clever ad campaign with that. And then they also released information to the magazines. You know, we used to get magazines once a month.
Yeah, but they were very careful about that. Weren't they really like very cautious about the kind of information they were?
Yeah, it was all
and
top.
The photographs. Yeah, the photographs too.
Yes, they wouldn't allow journalists to photograph it. No one was allowed to ride them, and that added to the mystique, you know. And as I remember, I rode a Yamaha 250 MX back then, which was a good bike. But when that Suzuki, that ad and all that, you know, a couple buddies of mine bought TM 250s, and a couple bought the 400s too. And boy, I saw those things, and I'm like, oh man, there's one of them. You know, it was, you really thought you might be getting something close to that, but in reality, it was, no, you were not.
Let me just give the viewers an example, and you've sent me 40 or 50 pictures of this bike, and every one of them you could spend quite some time discussing. But here's one that really caught my eye when you talk about the weight limit, this bike weighing 168 pounds, Terry.
Yeah.
Look at the spacer between the swing arm and the rear backing plate.
Yeah, the wheel spacer there. Yep.
I mean, it's just incredible.
Well, that was typical back then. What's not typical is that spacer is made out of nylon.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
and
that's what I was referring to. Yes.
Yeah, that white spacer, that's nylon, and the and these bikes got lighter and lighter, and this was the peak right here, 72, and you'll see the chain adjuster bolts, titanium. The little thing that has the brooch on it for the brake lever, that's titanium. The little cam in there, and that big nut on the axle, that's titanium, and the other one is aluminum. And then the and the thing's drilled out all the way. The shocks are held on with circlips. It's a titanium pin that goes through a billet bracket that's welded heliarched into the aluminum swing arm. The wheel hubs, the backing plates are all sand cast magnesium. You know, they even the little pin down there holding the brake cable clevis to the brake lever, that's titanium.
Terry, I was reading, obviously doing a little research before you and I were able to sit down, and they say this swing arm weighs 4 pounds and the frame weighs 15.
Yeah, if that's what it says, then that's probably right, because
Yeah.
when I bought this bike, it came over in pieces. You know, they disassembled it and crated it with another bike. And yeah, you can see those little flat washers that have a flat blade screwdriver slotted
Yes.
thing. Those little bolts. Those are titanium. The shocks are billet aluminum. It's man. And this chain, yeah, look at that shock.
There's a better picture of the shock. And something else that, I mean, everything on this bike catches your eye. If you just, look at it long enough, you'll realize it is far, far advanced 1972 for any era of factory bikes. I mean, this thing really takes the cake when it comes to technological advances. Am I seeing that these titanium bolts through the triple clamps are drilled?
No,
It looks like there's a little hole there, or maybe it's from the lathe or something.
it is. That's a live center from the bolt being hand machined on the lathe.
Okay.
So each bolt on this bike, there was no CNC machines back then. So every bolt, every little bracket, everything is handmade. And we'll go back to that triple clamp again, and I'll tell you something else.
Yeah, what's that?
Okay, this triple clamp here, this is really cool. That lower triple clamp is aluminum, and it's cast, but it's completely hollow. And if you were to remove that fork tube, you'd be able to look through the whole lower triple clamp there. And it was made by the company, or a Japanese company, that made components for the World War II Japanese Zeros. They had a special casting process and things like that. And they were commissioned to build this thing. And you can, if you look carefully, right in the middle there, you can see really carefully welded together. But it's actually two halves there.
I can see it right there.
Yep. So that's a real lightweight and very trick part, and it's unique to these real early Suzukis.
Tell me a little bit more about what's happening in here, Terry. I mean, this airbox, and I've seen one out of the bike. It's pretty incredible how, in a way, how basic it really is.
It is.
And yet how far advanced it was compared to anything else at that time. Talk to us a little bit about that airbox and how it's riveted together and things like that.
Sure. Suzuki was really careful about letting information out about these bikes. And this airbox was one of the main things. You were absolutely not allowed. They wouldn't even let a journalist take a little photograph or anything like that. And so it's an open airbox. There's a lot of volume in there, and you can see that little hood over the filter that's pop riveted into the plastic. Yeah, that was shielding it from mud and dust and whatnot. And then you can see there's an aluminum cover that's drilled out, and that goes over the filter, and that's held to a sandcast magnesium bell housing is the way I'll describe it.
Right.
That's on the other side of that filter. And you see one of those parts, it's so cool and trick looking, and it's so light, you can't believe it. And it's held, so both of those, that little cover there holds the filter in place to that bell housing with 3 titanium Allen wrench screws. It's really cool. And then below the filter, there's a little drain down there, And there's a little hood over the drain too, that's riveted in place. And
Terry, do you have a bottle of water there with you?
I do. Yeah,
Oh,
I've
okay.
had some health issues, and I'm not having a good day today. But
I understand. If you didn't have one, I was gonna say, let's take a little break and you go get one.
yeah,
And
no,
then we'll come back. But if you're okay,
I am. Thank you.
all right. We were
Okay.
talking about the bottom triple clamp, which was cast aluminum. This doesn't look the same.
No, that's sand cast magnesium,
Okay.
and all those bolts there are titanium. It's all original. And the let's see, the steering stem would be aluminum, and I think that top bolt there that the breather hose goes into, I think that might be aluminum as well. And the nut that goes over the bearing, so at the bottom of that top triple clamp,
Yes,
you can see it.
I do.
That's titanium.
Right.
This bike is I've ridden this.
Yeah.
It feels, when you ride it, because you're not used to something like this, it feels weightless. And I mean weightless. It feels like there's a motor and a bicycle chassis underneath you. It's something.
Well, I mean, 168 pounds. I have a poster of it over here, but I don't want to get up. How many horsepower was this thing at 168 pounds?
I don't know.
I'm going to just look over here. I don't know if it's on the poster.
Well, they make stuff up on those posters too.
Oh, okay. No, it doesn't. Oh, it says 36.
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
I mean, that sounds it's like a lot for that time for a 250, but it certainly sounds reasonable.
I think it's a 36 millimeter Mikuni, and it's a piston port engine. So that's
the handlebars,
you know,
with all this trick magnesium, titanium, aluminum, these bars must be something a little bit different about these bars too, no?
They're very lightweight, but they're a chrome moly. And let me tell you something about these handlebars.
Tell me.
When I got the bike, it didn't have the correct handlebars on it. They were factory Suzuki handlebars, but they weren't Joel's, according to him. And I was in Belgium with him, and we were out at his club down near the French border in Philippeville. And we were celebrating one of the club members' wives' birthday. And it must have been, there was about 3 or 4 picnic tables out there, and all these Belgian people, hardly any of them spoke English, and they're all drinking wine and just having a great time. And they were just the nicest people. And so anyway, Joel gets on his, what year? This would have been in the late 90s. So he got on his cell phone and he called somebody. We were sitting next to each other at the picnic table.
Yeah.
And it's probably 1 o'clock in the morning at this time. And he makes a phone call, and he didn't say anything to me about it. And, so I'm just sitting there with everybody and, having a good time. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, and this track we were at where his club was in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing there, no lights, nothing. It was pitch black except for where we were. And all of a sudden, I look down the road, and there's a couple headlights coming up the road to come to where we're at.
Yeah.
And he taps me. I see the headlights, and that's all that. And he taps me, and he goes, "Come on." So I get up, and we go over to the car. The guy parks, and he gets out. And this guy's his name is Pirone. And he was a GP rider that rode Greaves, I think. I'd never heard of him or met or anything before, but that's who it was. And Pirone gets out of the car, and he goes to the back and opens up his trunk. And there's all these factory Suzuki parts in the back that fit this bike, spares. And one of the pieces was the handlebars that are on it now.
Ah.
And Joel reaches in, yeah, that's them. And Joel reaches in the trunk, pulls out the handlebars. This was so cool. And he holds them like he's riding.
Yeah.
And he's had probably at least a bottle of wine by now. And he holds those bars and he goes, these are my bars. Put them on the bike. And hands them to me. And he told that guy Perron, who bought Joel's agent, this guy named Serge, would do a lot of mechanic work for Joel in the international races that would be in Belgium or France or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Serge had a little deal going, secret deal going, where he was taking some of those parts and he was selling them to Perron.
Ah.
And Perron was trying to put together a bike. But Joel is like the king of Belgium. You have to understand that.
Yes.
And he found out about it. And he called up Perron and he goes, you give all that stuff to Terry. So I have all that stuff here.
Terry, before I knew you, before I think maybe even the internet, you wrote a book. And this bike is in that book.
Yes.
And we'll get into the story about where you found it and Beamish in the UK. But I'm going off memory here from what I read in this book, and it was a long time ago. But from what I remember, you had this pipe rebuilt from the original pipe?
Yeah, that's okay. So the pipe, that's the original pipe that came with the bike. The bottom was smashed, and the header pipe had dents in it too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew Donnie Emler from FMF.
Sure.
Pretty good. And so I told him, I told everybody when I got this bike, man, I was just, I've never had a feeling like it since, and it was just getting something like this and it being Joel's and all that. But when we were refurbishing the bike, which took a year, and it actually took more money to refurbish it than it did to buy it.
Wow.
I called Emler about it, and Donnie said, send me the pipe, and he would take care of it. And I believe he personally fixed it. And a funny story about that, it was about 3 a.m. one morning, and I'm still working. I'm not retired now I just sit at home and rot.
Sure.
But, I was working, so I had to get good sleep because commodity trading, kind of takes its toll on you.
Sure.
And the phone rings, and I pick it up, I'm like, what? And he goes, it's Emler. He goes, hey, I'm working on the pipe now. Man, I can smell, and he was heating it up and welding or cutting it or whatever he was doing. But he goes, I can smell the Castrol-R and, burning the carbon or whatever that's still in it was burning. And he called me up at 3 a.m. to tell me that.
Terry, I've seen some of the parts that you have. I've only been there for 2 or 3 days at a time, and that's not enough to go through all the parts you have.
No.
But one night we were looking at some exhaust pipes for the RH and the RN, and you discovered, or you were asking Roger about it, and I'm asking this because I want to know if it was the same procedure with the RH as it was the RN. But there were baffle plates within the belly of some of those expansion chambers. Did that take place on the 250 as well as the 370?
It took place later when the pipes were up pipes. That's when those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I saw it. There's stuff in those bikes that no one's ever heard of.
Yes.
And and every time I run into something like that, I like those plates, with the holes, different holes in them and stuff.
Yeah.
I always call up Roger and I go, what is this? And he tells me, and I'm like, holy smokes, that's cool.
What Wasn't there one time where you found one spring shorter than the other or something, and you thought it was wrong in the front fork?
No, that maybe you're thinking of the bolts, the front engine bolts.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that. Yeah.
Yeah, that I couldn't believe that one. The front engine bolts are one of the 370 or 400s. It was a 75. That's what it was.
Okay.
The two for the motor mounts. The top one was an 8mm bolt, and the bottom one was a 6mm bolt, like you'd hook a fender or something.
Yeah, pretty small for an engine.
Yeah.
6
So
millimeters.
I called them immediately. I was sitting there looking at it. I'm like, "What's this? Did you run out of bolts and put this little thing in here?" And so I called them up, and I go, "Hey, look at what's this? You know, oh, that, you know, that's to get the frames. You know, we wanted more flex at that part of the frame." And I'm like, "What? I never heard of stuff like this." And oh yeah, and he goes, "And then feel behind the backbone of the frame, and you'll feel a little angle iron thing welded there." So I felt back there, you know, you couldn't see, and I felt back there, and yeah, I feel it. What is that? Oh, that's to compensate for the 6 mil. You know, I'm just like, holy cow.
Wow.
So I call them all the time about stuff like this. And, you know, one of the other recent ones was there's one of the later open class Suzukis, the cylinders, there's so many different experimental cylinders. And one of them in the transfer ports, if you took a flashlight and shined it down in there, you'd see these different baffles that are cast inside the transfer port. And they're, you can't move them. They're cast like that. And I called him. What is this? And he goes, "Oh yeah, they're trying to direct the gas into different direction into the combustion chamber and stuff." And so it's just, there's all kinds of things like that. And that's what's going to be so neat about the museum.
Yeah.
And, you know, and all these people, these guys are going to learn stuff. I mean, I can't even believe it. And you know, yep, there's me and Roger. That's Joel. That's it right there. That's
where were you, Terry? What's going on here exactly?
Okay, that was in 1997. And Gene Ritchie, just God rest him,
Redbud?
from Redbud, just wonderful man. Called me up one day. He was really nice to me. Him and I had a good rap. He would let me use the track whenever we wanted when I was sponsoring guys. And, you know, we just had a cool. So anyway, he wanted his national to be the best national. And he said, "Would you bring a dozen factory bikes over here? And we'll have a little museum thing and, you know, and display them and that way." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds okay." And so Joel Robert happened to be at my house when all this was taking place. And so he came over here and that's when, and I flew Jim Pomeroy over here and to sign autographs and stuff like that. And so so anyway, they put up a big tent like that near the pits. I think it was exactly 12 bikes. And so that's it. And it's funny, that morning, DeCoster, some of our people, maybe it was Cindy or no, she knows him. I don't know. Someone who was collecting tickets to get into this thing came up to me and said, "Hey, there's some guy that wants to get in for free." And I think we were charging $5.
Yeah.
And I says, "No, everyone has to pay. It's only $5.
Who was it, Roger?
Yeah, she goes, "Well, he said his name is Roger DeCoster and you'd know who he was." And I go, "You tell him it's 10. It was pretty funny. But yeah, that was him. And that's the first time he saw that bike since I got it and restored it.
Yeah.
When I bought this bike, or was buying it, right in the process, I had just gotten the pictures from England. And he invited me. He was getting inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame, and the ceremony was held at the Fox Theater in downtown Detroit.
Yes.
And that was on a Friday night, and it happened to be the night that I got the pictures. I had them DHL me the pictures from England. And so I put those pictures. It was a real formal event. Bernie Little from the Miss Budweiser was there. Jackie Stewart, Al Unser, all these guys were there. And so before the thing, Roger's wearing a tuxedo and I'm wearing a suit, and a tie and everything. And I said, hey, I got something to show you here. The pictures of that RH-72 came. And he told me it was all BS, that it was a replica and there's no way. So I said, I got them here. And I pull them out of my sport jacket pocket. And I open the envelope and him and I are looking at them. And his jaw, I saw his jaw hit the floor when he saw it. It was, it was a real deal.
25 years later. It's 25 years.
Yeah, that's right. And he would have bet me. I could have made a lot of money off of DeCoster. But as we're looking at him and he's going, oh my, where did, that kind of thing. This head pops through right between him and me. And it was Jackie Stewart, the Formula One guy.
Yeah.
And his head's, and he's looking through, and he knew what it was. Then I'm like, I couldn't believe, there he is, Jackie Stewart. Yeah. And he's says, he's talking to Roger and I, and he says, back when I was in the Formula One, going for the world champion, Ferrari, all this stuff, he goes, I followed Roger on the GP circuit. He goes, I was a fan of his. And Joel Robert, and he goes, I know that bike. It was really cool.
It is. It is. And we're going to get into how you found the bike and a guy by the name of Graham Beamish in just a minute. But as tricked and as uncomplicated as some of this bike is, and yet it's still so advanced, the ignition system looks rather basic.
It is. It's a points. It's not even a CDI. It's a points ignition. You can see it, real clearly that it is. But it has an inner rotor button mag. So it revs.
Yeah.
Okay, let's assume that, see how big that carburetor is? That's a 36 millimeter in a piston port. And it's got power throughout the rev range. It's not just all on top. I've ridden it.
Yeah.
So anyway, you combine that much power with that light, the power to weight ratio now is in a crazy area. And put that lightweight ignition in there, you've got instant throttle response at your disposal.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a points ignition.
What did I want? Oh, I wanted to talk about Beamish. Graham Beamish, who was, of course, was or maybe still is, I don't know, the largest Suzuki dealer in Europe. And at some point, this bike was sent to him to put in a trade show. I don't want to get the story mixed up, Terry, but this bike and another bike after the season was over went with Robert to Spain, a 370 and this 250.
Yeah. So there was a big, at the time, Beamish was the sole importer for Suzuki for the UK.
Yeah.
Europe, the continent, was a separate thing. I believe it was run out of Holland. But Beamish sold more Suzukis in the UK than all of Europe combined.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, and he had a lot of pull with the factory in these top secret mystical bikes. So what he did is there was a big motor show in London.
Right.
And I've actually got the newspaper article about it. I forgot to send that. But anyway, there was a big motor show in London, and Suzuki now won the 250 and 500 world championship. And Beamish asked the factory if he could display those bikes at the show.
Right.
And so by the time Beamish had asked, DeCoster and who else? Sylvain Gabor's. Yeah, look at that thing. Anyway, they had turned all their stuff in to Nimog, which was the race headquarters in Holland.
In Holland, yeah.
Yeah, Nimog, and all the stuff was destroyed, and so the only two that were still left. Joel was real good friends with Senior Bolto.
Yeah.
From the guy that founded Boltaco. And Joel used to go down to Spain for a month. A lot of the Belgians did that. Harry Everts, Stefan Everts, but anyway, Joel would go down to Belgium or to Spain for a month and hold motocross schools there. And, he'd just go down there. And so he took this 250 and he took his 370. And went down there. And when he came back, is about when the time Beamish happened to ask for these bikes. And so Suzuki contacted Joel, and they go, "Hey, do you still have, those bikes?" "Yeah, I have them." And so they had that Surge guy, the guy that was working with Pirone, selling parts. They had him go to Joel's house and pick these bikes up and take them to Nimog. Look at that picture. That's one of my favorite pictures of it.
Beautiful.
It just looks so light. It's just incredible. That is the Holy Grail. That bike, there's not enough money in the world that would get me to sell that.
Terry,
Pardon?
would you tell us how much you paid for the bike when you bought it? Or would you rather not say?
No, I don't mind saying that. I mean, God, if it was now, I probably couldn't afford it. I said, okay. I found the bikes.
Yeah. And you could always say, and Terry, you could always say no, because even when we're faced
no, I don't mind saying it's funny. Okay. Actually, it's so low you'll laugh.
Okay.
I found the bikes. I was talking to Mark Banks. He's John Banks's son, John Banks. And Mark Banks was also a very good rider, and I was buying a bike off of Mark. So we're on the phone, and I'm, for 5 years, man, I just, my phone bill was just a fortune in those days trying to find the, and so I was on the phone with Mark one day, and I just ready to hang up the phone, and I says, "Hey, wait a second, I got to ask you something. Have you ever heard or know of where one of these downpipe Suzukis from Joel Robert or DeCoster?" He goes, "Know where they are?" Where some are. He goes, "I've ridden them." When he said that, I kid you not, I wasn't sure I heard what he said correctly because
really,
yeah, it was that shocking. And then he told me that Beamish, and then I never heard of Beamish. Yeah. And then he told me about Graham Beamish, and he goes, "Yeah, I think I've got his number." And so he gives me the number. Beamish lived in Brighton,
yes,
down by the sea, south of London, and it was Golding Farm. They call everything a farm, or this farm and that farm, and it was Golding Farm. And so he gave me the phone number, and I called there, and Stephen, his son, who actually raced this thing in a schoolboy class or something over there for a while. And he gives me the number, and Stephen answers the phone, and I says, "Yeah, I'm in Chicago." I give him the whole spiel. There's Joel. That was his best race of his career.
This one?
That one. That's at Markello.
Okay, let's do this.
Oh yeah, let's go back.
Let's finish up the bank story.
Yeah.
He used to race it in a schoolboy class. He tells you where both bikes are. You call Graham Beamish?
No, I call Stephen Beamish answered.
Okay.
And then he goes, I think that's how it went. And somehow or another, he goes, "Yeah, no, my dad doesn't live in England anymore, and he owns the bikes. They're still here on the farm. They're down in the shed." I go, "They're down in the shed? What does that mean?" And he goes, "Oh, they've been down there forever." I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to take the Concorde over to London here in a minute. And so he says, my dad owns a restaurant in Spain.
Okay.
So I get that number somehow. That's a little fuzzy. But I called Graham in Spain. And then he told me the story and how they were, he had a guy that was going to restore them, and the guy was butchering it. And he said, no, don't stop, and then they just put him in the shed. And keep in mind, in 1994, this craze of, and this thing that me and Greg Prim basically started
Yeah.
of a museum and stuff. No one was thinking along those lines.
Right.
So anyway, this is what he said. He goes, yeah, I'll sell them to you. And he goes, the 250 was Joel Robert's, 100%. And he says the 370 is DeCoster's, but he goes, I'm not sure if it was his. He goes, I'm not 100% sure.
And you didn't even know that the Coster's bike was in there at the time, did you?
No, not until he told me. And so then there's a guy that lives in the Midlands, which is up north of London. That's in America, all you think about is London. So he lives up there, and he was a bike collector. Nice guy. Clive Bussey was his name. I don't talk to him too much anymore, but here's how it went down. And so I said, okay, Graham, let me figure this out. I'll buy them. Done. I'll wire you the money. And I was doing really well on the trading back in those days. And so the amount of money was nothing, and he goes, I want 10,000 pounds each. And so the pound was like 150. The dollar was 150 to a pound. So it was 15,000 each, which is a steal.
You bought both bikes?
Well, no.
Oh, okay.
So I call up Clive. And I go, Clive, and his favorite bike, me and him were both collectors, and we both knew we were astute by that time. We weren't idiots. Right. We had plenty of experience under our belt, and he is also a student of history, as am I. And we both, I refer to that picture that you opened your show with that bike, the ad, and I was very well aware of how, yes. And Clive was very well aware of all of this because he's been in Europe and went to these Grand Prix and DeCoster and the RN72 and blah, blah, blah. So I said, Clive, I was talking to Mark Banks, and these things exist. And I go, I don't have any pictures. There's no internet really. So that was a 3-hour drive for him. And I said, get your butt down there now. Don't let 1 minute. So go down there now. Get a disposable camera, those cardboard cameras. Yeah. I go shoot the whole roll on the bikes in the night. Just shine a light on them or whatever you have to do. Go there now and DHL me that camera. It's one day we paid to have it. That when he did that camera was in my hands in Chicago at the exchange the next day. And so he did it, and he went down there, and he drives all the way back, and he gets home at 5 a.m. or something like that. And he called me up. I was asleep. Calls me up, and he's got this really depressed voice. Oh. And I go, hey, what did you see? Did you go, did you got the pictures, and are the bikes real? And he goes, oh yeah, they're real. All right. I go, what does that mean? And he goes, cause he sounded like something bad happened. And he goes, the 250 is the best of the two. It at least is together. And it's hammered beyond belief. and the 370 is in pieces. And somebody did this to it, and somebody did that. And but he goes, they're the real deal. And that didn't even faze me. I said, okay, well, and we made an agreement before he went there, because he says, I'd like to get one too. I go, fine, I'm not going to be greedy here.
Yeah.
Which one do you want? And I was hoping he'd say the 370. I wanted Joel Robert's.
Oh, yeah.
And he said the 370. And those European guys, they love the 500 class. That's it for them. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
And so we make that agreement before he even goes. And then he comes back. He calls me on the phone. He's really depressed. And I says, well, you think about it. Did you send the thing? Yeah, we're sending the thing to you and all that. I had that thing within hours in Chicago, and I took it across the Chicago River to a 1-hour photo place, and they developed them. And I went back, and then that was the night I went and saw Roger at the Hall of Fame thing. But then when I came back to Chicago from the Hall of Fame thing, I was just no way I wasn't going to do it. And as bad as they were. And I've got pictures of them too. I still have those pictures. But
Terry, let's do this. I want to take a little break, a couple of minutes.
Okay.
We'll come back. We'll talk more about the restoration. And of course, I really want to talk more about the first time Joel Robert saw the bike, how he rode it in your yard, and that wonderful friendship that you guys had over the years. Okay?
You got it.
We'll be right back with more Terry Good and Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Hi, I'm Tommy Croft, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abadi. We'll be right back with my dear friend Joe.
I get asked often, what's the most important thing on Clunker? Answer simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle Racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run Full Circle Racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
The International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Be sure to visit them online at internationalmotocrossmuseum.org. Don't forget, all your donations or purchases from the International Motocross Museum are 100% tax deductible. My guest this afternoon, or this evening is Terry Good. We are talking about the 72 RH of Joel Robert, and there's been some pretty interesting things that we've discussed about the bike. I want to get back to this picture, Terry, but there are a couple of things that I want to talk about before that. This bike, like any bike that has a lot of research, development, high tech, certain things happen at certain times. What happened here?
That was the only DNF he ever had.
Really?
Yep. That was in Czechoslovakia, Halitz, in second moto. And I believe he still got the second overall.
I think he had like a 1 minute lead, I was reading, and the frame broke, and the only thing holding it together was the clutch cable.
Yeah, and every time he went over a bump, the clutch would pull in, and
Yeah.
he was mad. I'll tell you, I know Joel. I knew him very well, and there's actually film of that happening, or him crossing the finish line, sitting on the bike side saddle like that. He rode about a lap around the track like that, and I saw the expression on his face, and he was pissed.
Is this it? No, this is just happens to be another.
That's the Spanish Grand Prix. The bike had arrived that Saturday. The time trials before this is the first Grand Prix of 1972, and the first time he rode it was the day before this, and it was dusty and dry and everything. And then the day of the Grand Prix, that it rained. And Joel was a fantastic mud rider, maybe one of the best, probably.
I have something here that I found in my research. It might have to do something with this day. And this is a quote directly from Joel Robert to you for one of your books. Well, apparently it isn't this day, because it said, with 4 Grand Prix to go, I clinched the world championship in the Soviet Union. Now, this is Joel speaking. It was the first time I had handled my own travel arrangements, and it ended up being a weekend where I had a border crossing problem. I ended up in jail for a brief time due to a conflict with the Russian guard. Finally got to the track on Sunday, just about when practice was almost over. I had not slept in nearly 2 days, and my few practice laps were not very good at all. I remember the Japanese mechanics looking at their stopwatches and shaking their heads. Just before the race started, the heavens opened up and it started to rain. It rained so hard that in minutes, the track turned into a quagmire. I was known as a good mud rider, and I knew that I would have an advantage. This gave me some added adrenaline and motivation. I ended up winning both motos and was crowned champion for the 6th time. This was the most memorable moment of my career. It might have been this day, no? Maybe?
No, that's Spain, the Russian Grand Prix.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was in jail, and it's just he was here one year, and a professional camera guy came to my house, and we recorded an hour or 2 hours interview of me asking him questions where I knew the answer. And he tells the whole story in that. And it was, you hear that story and you don't even believe it. But yeah, he was in jail.
Terry, was this one of the first times after you had restored the bike and had it, that Joel saw it?
No.
Or was this just...
That there is in 2008. That's my backyard. And we were having a barbecue in the backyard. And this was my idea to take that bike out and get a picture of me and him. And then we did one of Josie Ann and him. And that one there, that's, I tell you, I remember like that, it's like it just happened. It's so fresh in my memory. And, it just, I can't believe he's gone. And wished everyone, he was going to come here to Chicago and live at my house for 6 months out of the year. And he was going to work at the museum.
Yeah.
And he looked forward to that. God, he talked about it and everything, and it just didn't work out. And but yeah, that picture was probably the last time he was with the bike. but that's the yard that he rode the bike in.
Well, that was the next question I wanted to ask you about. From what I understand, I mean, he was well beyond retirement. Years had gone by. We're already talking about the 90s. He won the world championship for the 6th time in 72. So we're talking almost 30 years later. And he really ripped up your residence one afternoon, didn't he?
He did. He did. Ron Lawson from Dirt Bike Magazine. He's the editor of Dirt Bike.
Right.
And he, it was right after the bike was all finished, you know, and ready to go. I had started it up in my backyard. I rode it for a little bit and all that. And Ron and I were pretty good friends. We used to go trail riding together and stuff like that. And we were actually planning a trail ride, and DeCoster was going to go with us, and so was Joel Robert. And it was up in Michigan. But Ron came back here mainly to do a photo shoot of that bike and meet Joel. Joel called me up. He didn't believe it existed either. He did not. He says, no, this is impossible. No, this is not possible. That's how he would say it. Yeah. And so he was down in Florida with Josie Ann, and they were doing some business down there. And then they came up to Chicago. I picked him up at the airport. And he hadn't seen the bike, but it was just finished. And so my wife and I, we moved all the furniture out of the living room, and we set the bike in the middle of the living room in the house.
Yeah.
And then I had a camcorder on a tripod in the corner. And, you know, you walk in the room, you'd look at the bike, not the
Sure.
you know, and I had the remote control for that camcorder on me. So I go to the airport, I pick up Joel and Josie Ann, and I bring them back to my house, and we undo their luggage and all that, and get them ready to stay in. You know, we always gave them our room when they came over. And so I says, hey, where's the bike? You know, and so I said, come on. So we go in the house, we go through the garage, in the kitchen, and through the dining room. And then, you know, you go in the dining room, and if you turn, like, you know, to the left a little, there, you know, it goes through the foyer and into the living room. And there it was. And I hit the record button on that thing right when he did that. And I've got the whole thing on tape. He freaked out. He couldn't believe it. He would, this is not possible. You know, and he was lifting it off the stand. That's how you really tell if it's real.
Oh, yeah, by the weight, sure.
By the weight and exact model. You know, he went crazy. So then Ron Lawson came over, and Ron said, you know, hey, can we take it for a little ride? And I was kind of hesitant about that. You know, I don't know. And I mean, yeah, I started it and wrote it, but that was me. And I just went slowly. And I said, all right, let's take it out. So we took it out of the living room, out the front door, took it over into the driveway and fired it up. It fires. When I started it for the first time since we got finished with the reefer, I think it was the second kick it started. You know, I put gas in and it fired right up, and it crisp and everything. And so we fired it up, and I took it for a little out in the backyard and to kind of set an example, like, don't go nuts with this thing. And so then I hand it to Ron Lawson, and he goes and rides, and he did. He took it carefully like that, shut it off. And Joel's still looking at it. You could just see the way his face and his eyes and everything, you could tell he was going back to 1972. That was amazing. And he's looking at it. And then I just happened to say to him, I go, you try it out. You want to ride it? And he goes, no. You know, and I said, no, come on, just give it a shot. Let's see. Tell me if it feels like it did in 72. Yeah, look at that. And so we convinced him. It took a minute or so to convince him. And he fired it up. and he was wearing these clogs. You know, he wear that. All those European guys, they like those wooden clogs. And the
Yeah,
good
yeah.
one, the ones those are tennis shoes. But the clogs he wore, they're special ones, and you get them out of Sweden, and they got the little rivets in them, it's those ones. So he was wearing those at the time, and he's smoking a cigarette and everything like that. Okay, and he puts the cigarette out, gets on the bike, fires it up, and he takes off, and he goes to the very corner of my yard. And my backyard is over 300 feet long. So that's a football field. You could play an NFL, you could play a game back there. So he goes to the corner of the yard, and he doesn't have a helmet, no, just a t-shirt, like what you saw there. And he immediately pulls up the front end straight up and rides the whole length of the yard. I think he even shifted a gear or so. Now I've got that on camcorder too. And then he rode around, and the bars were like
Close to the ground.
6 inches from the ground. He's wearing clogs. And you can see, in the video that I shot of all this sod flying, he was gassing it. And now by that time, and the thing makes so much noise, and my neighborhood's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
This isn't a normal thing that goes on here. So the neighbor lady comes running over, and she goes, "What's all this racket?" And Cindy goes, "Oh, he's the 6-time world champion. He's trying out his." And as soon as she said that, Mrs. Crowley, our neighbor, "Oh, okay." But the windows were rattling. And then he came back. He did a few passes, and he came back, killed the engine right next to us. And the first thing out of his mouth is, he goes, "Boy, this is noisy."
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine the racket that would come out of that unsilenced chamber like that?
It's real loud.
I bet.
It's real loud. And
now, I don't want to forget this picture, Terry. Who was this?
That was, Joel tells me that was the toughest race he ever won.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. I knew it was Joel, but why was this the toughest race he ever won?
It's Marcello, I think other people, Marcello. It's in Holland. Sand track. Joel did not like the sand. And he was good, but he didn't like it. He'd rather race in the mud. Sylvain Gabors, his teammate, was one of the best sand riders in the world. And Joel got a bad start in both motos. I don't know if he was last or close to it, but he worked all the way up and passed Sylvain on the last lap. And he said that was the hardest race he'd ever done in his life. And that's it, number 35.
What do we got here? It looks like something happening in the pits.
Yeah, that's probably, I'm not sure where that would be. That's Sylvain's bike, number 2, and Joel's, you see. Those are the transit vans. So Suzuki had those, and they would put 2 bikes. By the way, that number 1 bike you see in the background, that's the bike that I have. That is the only 72 RH7. That is the only RH72 that Joel ever rode. And he told me that one day, and I go, "Why is that?" And because there was 2 of them in the van all the time.
Yeah.
And he said one was good enough. He was something else. He told the guys in Japan when he would go there and test it.
Yeah.
He told them he would go testing, on their test track and come back. And he came back and, telling the bars like this or that. And he goes, "You give it to me like that and I'll win." DeCoster and Sylvain Gabors, they're out testing different frames, gearboxes, cylinders, pipes, everything. And they ended up, he said, Joel told me, they ended up coming back to the original settings anyway. But Joel was really confident. Man, he signed that for me.
Yeah, when did he sign that for you, Terry?
1995.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
What else
just
we got going on here? We took a look at the ignition. Oh, let's take a look over here for a second. because at one point, Mako and a few other manufacturers, the only way they could actually beat Suzuki was to have the rules changed, and they tried to go in and protest the bike by saying that Toilet Hanson's titanium frame Husky broke in half. It's unsafe. The Suzukis are probably unsafe too, and rules were changed. And the next year, the bikes had to go up to 196 and 199 or something like that, and they couldn't have titanium axles. Does this bike have a titanium axle?
No,
Okay.
but that bolt, the pinch bolt, is titanium, but the axle is steel.
Do you know much more about that story with Mako putting up a stink about the weight limits?
Oh, I do.
Well,
That was led by Mako pretty much, and Suzuki came into Europe in the early 60s road racing, and they built some incredible, 50cc 3-cylinder 14-speed gearboxes, and just annihilated everybody. And Mr. Tamaki, I hope he watches this video. I'm going to send it to him so he'll watch it. But he was one of the top engineers, and then they changed the rules and banned those bikes. The FIM did in 65 or something like that, and they chased them out of the road. Suzuki says, "Fine, we'll just leave. We don't need." And so it's real political in Belgium. It's real political in Europe. And, Bob Hannon and I were talking about that the other day. He's got a real funny story on that one. But so Mako, when Suzuki was dominating, that's enough, man. We can't compete with these things. And plus they had the best riders in the world and this and that. And so they all got together, those European firms, and they petitioned the FIM. It was all political, probably the payola. I live in Chicago. This town is noted. Yeah, this is what happens. And so the corruption and all that pretty much did it in. And Suzuki, the sad thing about it is when they implemented that rule, the 73 Suzukis were already built.
That's what I was just looking at. That's exactly what I was just looking at. And they had to really fatten those bikes up in order to race them, because they were the same weight. They were like 168 and 100, and, definitely under 170 pounds.
Yeah. And they had to put lead in the down tube of the frame and all steel bolts. They cast this engine out of aluminum instead of magnesium. So there was a lot of things that happened then. And Suzuki, especially, I could see Mr. Tamaki headed up this motocross division, and by the way, he designed all these bikes and was in charge of these from 1965 to 1983.
Wow, it's a long stretch.
A long stretch. The guy is a genius, a walking genius. And he told me, when 70, 71, 72, he said, all I did was eat, sleep, dream, lightweight. And he came up with all these ideas on how to make that bike so light. And there it is. I think it's the most.
Even these fenders, Terry, look way thinner than
they are.
The fender.
They're very thin. The pipe is real thin. They changed that. The swing arm weighs nothing. The shocks. The only thing that weighs more that I noticed on the whole bike is the front forks, those chrome tubes.
Yeah.
Even though those sliders are turned down and they're wafer thin and they ran those those little protectors, those tubes are stout. And other than that, everything is titanium, and inside that engine you can't even believe it. It's like when you look at it, it's like there's something missing, and it's not. It's all there. And but Mr. Tamaki, he did this, and this is his brainchild, and he deserves such credit. He's in a nursing home now in Japan, and he just had a birthday and whatnot. But another little thing about this pipe, is there was an elderly couple that made those through
That made the
hydroform.
pipes?
They made handmade each pipe. Pounded that hydroform, all kinds of ways to make it. And look at the way that thing is formed, the way it bends around the swing arm.
Yes.
That's not cones. That's what they did. And and then it curves in and all that. Those things were handmade by a couple, a husband and wife in Japan. And Roger told me when he went to Honda, I've got almost 40 of those pipes that were Rogers.
From his Suzukis.
Yeah. And when he went to Honda, he gave one of the HRC guys, because when he went to Honda, they had just started HRC, and he gave one of the pipes to them just to check it out, and they couldn't duplicate it. He told me that. So these Suzukis, I am telling you right now, I've got HRC bikes. I've seen the inside of all those and everything like that. Yep, and they were dominant, no question about it. But these 72 RA, RH, and RN Suzukis are the creme de la creme, most advanced space age things in history in relative terms. You always have to take it and compare it to what its era, right? You can't compare it to, look at that rear hub. And that brake, whatchamacallit there, the brake, it's usually pressed in the hub. You can see the screws it's screwed into.
Oh yeah, that was a question I had there, Terry. I don't know if the viewers at home could see it. I certainly could see it. I'm sure, and Terry knows about it. There's what appears to be a Phillips head. It's Japanese industrial standard, I'm sure. A Phillips head screw, machine screw, right here in the hub. Is that holding the liner in?
Yes.
So the liners could be changed?
Yes. And they were a special material. They weren't that came in the TM 250. These things stopped.
Yeah.
And this chain, that's a CZ chain.
Okay.
They use, the factory used Suzuki used CZ chains, and they were the strongest chains around back then. Or that's what Joel told me. So that's the tires. It was lightweight. Just all Dunlop K88, I think, on the back of that, and Trelleborg.
Well, while I have you here, and I didn't realize it at the time, we were looking at all the wheels, and it's incredible. There must be 50 wheels that you have of Roger DeCoster's that were never put on the bikes, works hubs, special rims, special spokes down to the nipple, special tire locks, rim locks that have aluminum rivets, or they're made of titanium, the bolt that goes through. It's insane. But what I never knew was that there were actually works tires too. Oh yeah. I didn't know this.
From all different manufacturers, they might run a Trelleborg like Joel Suzuki here. There was a Trelleborg on the front and a Dunlop on the back. And so they would get them from free for, anyone would give it. Metzler's this week and something else the next week. And so, that was real common. And that's another thing at the museum, like you pointed out, there's probably 50 wheel sets there.
At least.
All together with everything. And all the factory tires that have never seen production and no one knows about, all that stuff, the titanium and magnesium rim locks, the special 2.75 rims when no one had that stuff. There's even 17-inch rims. Remember that craze?
Yeah, sure I do.
Yeah, I've got Works 17-inch back wheels of Rogers, for that.
Terry, all 5 speeds, the 250s and the 370s were all 5 speeds?
That's a 5-speed.
It's a 250. It's a 5-speed.
That's a 250. Yep, that's the 5-speed. The 370, the 360, that one, it started out as a 4-speed, and then the first 370, The 71, that was also a 4-speed. And that's when they hired Roger. That's when that's the bike he started with.
So
And
would
then
you say, I mean, and you have all the DeCoster bikes from his world championships.
Yeah.
Are those all 4-speeds?
Up to 71. And then he recommended the 72 be a 5-speed. And they made a completely different gearbox for that bike.
Okay. Yeah, I just was wondering about that at that time. I mean, the incredible power that they made. I was thinking 4 speeds, and then they went to 5. And as they say, the rest is history. What didn't we talk about so far? You even were nice enough to share the price of the bike and how you got it and how you found it and the Beamish story. That was great, Terry. Thanks for sharing that with us.
There's one more component to that.
What's that?
Okay. When they were still in the shed in Brighton,
Yeah.
I had to call in Beamish, and I had to get his bank account. We had to send him the money to get the bikes.
Yeah.
And so I called Clive, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to send Graham the 10,000 pounds. I'm going to wire it to him tomorrow. And are you taking the 370 or what? And he goes, I don't know.
Oh.
What do you mean you don't know? You're not going to buy that thing? And he goes, he just goes, and my stomach was sick when I saw the condition it was in. And I said, Clive, grab it. I said, if you don't take it, I'm going to take it. So he went. He's going to be pissed if I say this, but he sold his wife's BMW car to buy the bike. And he took it. And he did a phenomenal job restoring it. And I called back, and his wife answered the phone, and she had now seen the pictures. They had sold her car.
Yeah.
It was the smartest thing he could have done. Think about it.
Probably was. I mean, that BMW isn't worth squat today, probably.
It's a beer can right now.
That's right, somewhere.
So I called one time, and she answered the phone, and I'm on the phone. Hey, is Clive there? And she goes, Terry, with that British accent. She goes,
yeah. Tell
me, Terry, is mine the one with the wheels or the one without the wheels? Oh my God. Because his was in pieces, the 370.
Yeah, she's without a car, and she sees this pile of junk is all it is to her.
A pile of junk. And but it was a real good sport. Sally is her name. She's a real nice lady. And but I thought that was I'll tell you, when she said that to me, I wanted to just dig a hole and get out of there.
Very good. The 1972 RH 250 of Joel Robert, his 6th world championship bike. And from what you've told me, it is your favorite.
By far.
All right. There it is. We know most of the history of it. We know that Terry restored it. It is in his possession. It will be, I'm sure, a major part of the International Motocross Museum when that time comes, and that time will come. And right now, Terry, I can only ask you to do one thing. I have to wrap up the show, but I don't want you to disconnect. I want to make sure we have this recorded for future reference, and we'll go from there. Anything else you want to add about the Joel bike, or anything about Joel? Have you spoken to Josiane since?
I just texted her recently. Yeah, we stay in close touch with her.
Good.
She's a great. We love her. She's like family to us. And she was at the one event. She was at one of our events. Her and Charlotte.
Yeah, she was with a lovely young lady who was Joel. Is it his granddaughter or?
Yeah, Charlotte.
Yeah.
She just got her. She's a nurse now in a hospital, and she's engaged to a really nice guy. I knew Charlotte when she was a little baby, and so it's nice to see her growing up. And she's just a wonderful, beautiful, nice lady, and so we're happy for her.
Terry, thank you again for taking some time to talk to us about these amazing bikes. We'll have you again soon with something else. I'm hoping we'll have some updates on the IMM with the new year here. And I don't want to say too much, but there are some things happening. So we will have you back again if you'd come back.
Sure, anytime, Joe. For you, no problem.
I appreciate it, Terry. Don't disconnect. I'll be back with you in a few minutes.
Okay, you got
Thank
it.
you, sir.
Yep.
Terry Good, the International Motocross Museum. There you got the word on the Joel Robert R872. I mean, absolutely incredible story. If you want to become a sponsor or a supporter of Vintage Motocross Q&A, you can do so for just $249.95 a month. That is for a sponsorship, $249.95. If you want to be a supporter, $49.95 one-time fee, $49.95, and that will get you a shirt, it gets you an apron, it gets you a poster, just like this. That's $49.95. I want to thank our sponsors, including Full Circle Racing. Be sure to visit Tom McAllister at FullCircleRacing.com. Of course, the International Motocross Museum. Today is Wednesday, January 7th, and I will be leaving for the frozen tundra. That might not be too frozen. I'll be going out to Pennsylvania late Friday night. I will be arriving there early Friday morning. We have the York Swap Meet this weekend that happens on Sunday. All vendor space is closed. They are sold out of vendor spaces. However, plenty of room for you to come in and get some screaming deals in the middle of winter there in York, Pennsylvania. The night before is the Potomac Vintage Riders Banquet. It's a beautiful dinner. They give away prizes. Tommy Croft is the guest speaker this year. It'll be a great time. So without any further ado, yeah, I'll be heading out to York late Thursday night. I'm looking forward to seeing all my friends there in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. But for right now, thank you again, Terry Good, and the International Motocross Museum. We'll see you next time on Vintage Motocross Q&A. I don't run the opening credits. I run the end credits. That would be much better, wouldn't it?